Morning, Philip.
Hey, happy Easter.
Happy Easter. You hiding your eggs?
I'm sitting on one of them right now.
They're hard boiled at least, because
I
don't
don't know.
hide raw eggs, folks. It doesn't
In
end
your
well.
anywhere near your buttocks. No, it's not going to work out well for you.
Yeah, no, what Jesus would want.
Jesus is definitely not wanting you to do that. How do we get to the Easter Bunny? I don't know the history behind that, to be honest with you.
I saw something on Facebook. What was it?
Oh, good. It must be true then. Yes.
No, I'm not talking about. It's about the Easter Bunny, but it shows a picture of the Easter Bunny, like this big humanoid rabbit with a vest and that, holding a kid with a rag over his mouth, saying, "Sorry, kid, I'm the Ether Bunny." So I don't know. Let's see how that's relevant to how.
Speaking of which, I saw a grown man dressed as a Easter Bunny at our local farmers market yesterday. Yeah, he was terrifying.
Was he a fuzzy?
No,
is that what they call a fuzzy? Or
I don't think so.
Furry.
A furry. No,
fuzzy.
No, I don't. Well, maybe, but he was there just sort of greeting people, and I thought you were the wrong person. This is a very large, terrifying man. Yeah, like, hey, get in my van. I got some eggs in my van. Come on over here. No, don't.
I hope that it's anything to bring joy to the kids, and if the kids get a kick out of it, you might find it a little.
They did a great job. Yeah, they were doing Easter hunt. Like, kids got eggs from every vendor and stuff. Like, we go there and we buy our meat from local vendors and donuts sometimes from the Mennonites. Those folks. Well bearded, I might add.
Don't they make furniture?
They do. Okay. And food. Homemade. Their beards, no mustache, but I'm okay with it. I accept it.
It's called the flavor saver.
Oh, that's true. And on that note, what are we doing this week, Corey? Oh,
I mean, what are we doing? You picked it. Bluebook, baby.
No,
Project Bluebook. We're going into the archive.
Crazy. Project Bluebook. And maybe one of their big cases that from Washington. So
sure. Yeah, I think that was one you're talking about. It's capping our Alien trilogy. I
think so. And this is sort of our season finale for this season, I guess, right? What are we? We're in 12.
No, we got one more.
We got one more.
And I'll say it at the end, what I plan on doing for the ending.
Oh my God. It's going to be crazy. All right, folks.
Well, we'll see. It'll depends.
Let's do some deep dish Project Bluebook. Welcome to the OC. I'm Phil. This is my co-host, Corey, and tonight we are diving into Project Bluebook. Not Purple Book or Green Book or the Green Book, Green Mile. No.
You wonder who came up with this, right? They're like, okay, what are we going to call this? Well,
I like the first name.
You can imagine them looking around the room going, okay, can't call it Project Brown Chair. Can't call it Project Whiteboard. Can't call it Project Wood Tables.
Yes.
There we go.
Butter knife.
Butter knife. That's right.
It's very, No, I like. Well, what was the first name?
Wife.
The
first names. To say first name. So for those who don't know, Project Bluebook was the United States government, specifically the Air Force, their investigation into UFOs.
That's right.
Unidentified flying objects, not aliens. Do not confuse these two.
That's
true.
They
are similar, but they are not necessarily the same thing.
Yes, there was another group for aliens.
Yes.
There were a few movies made.
There's another group for aliens. We can't talk about them on the podcast.
That's right. We will not talk about them. Yeah. So, I mean, well, in 1947, this is when, so we had a lot of things going on. So I'll kind of do a brief, synopsis of what Project Bluebook is, I guess. And then we can kind of take off from there. But
start diving into parts of it, because I think you're getting the overall synopsis. Because some people are usually aware of Bluebook, but they're not necessarily aware.
They don't know what it. And neither was I really. I knew there was a TV show, and I didn't really know the facts behind it.
We touched on it in the previous episodes. I think we touched on it on the Area 51 episode.
We did a little bit, and but we've never really kind of got into the guts of it and
at all.
Yeah. So this is kind of a it's one we should cover, right? So
we spent the last 2 episodes talking about aliens,
potential aliens, not
maybe
necessarily
cryptids. We're not sure.
We're not sure. But you don't know. If you have an answer, like and subscribe. Drop us a line.
Like and subscribe.
Yeah. So yeah, 1947. A lot happened with Roswell. It's coincidental, I guess, that they decided a weather balloon was justification to start an entire organization based on unidentified.
They would have made that their symbol, though, right? Like you'd go off and say, "Hey, let's go off." And if we're gonna do a logo for this, like I don't think they had a logo, which is unfortunate. But it shows they were all academics and military men, so it's like they weren't creative. If they were creative, they would have had a logo of a weather balloon or something.
At least a tartan of some sort or something.
Tartan.
Here's your work kilt.
Here you go, and your project sign haggis.
Yes. And you must learn to play the bagpipes.
Which will be in the tartan of Project Bluebook.
That's right. It's totally Scottish.
That's right. Scots. Yeah. There we go. Oh my God, we've hit on something. Scots are aliens.
Hey, they could be, because we're Masons. The core. All right. Anyway,
we'll go. Secret society. See, oh my dear Lord, Phil, we've got it all traced out. Get the crazy board.
Get the map and the strings and the tags. All right. So from 47 to 69, Project Bluebook was in existence. So I thought the number was kind of crazy. They investigated. This is not a big group of people, by the way. So what Project Bluebook was a group designed to try and answer the question of unidentified flying objects. So when you go, oh, there's something in the sky over there, I do not know what that is. Then they come and they ask questions and all that stuff. So they investigated 12,618 cases in their time frame. That's a lot. Yeah, that's like an enormous amount of investigation for a small group. I don't know how many. I can't claim how many people were involved in Project Bluebook, but
I want to say like a dozen or so. I remember seeing some numbers. It's not a lot, and it was a mix of military personnel and academics.
Yeah, and I don't think it was like their full time. Like there were full time Project Bluebook people, but there was also like people that were being utilized as contractors and things like that.
Contractors to deal with witnesses.
That basically
for the real incidents.
Yeah, well, of those 12,618, 701 remained unidentified, so that there was no way that they could explain these situations.
Correct. Remained unidentified. So people say, "Oh my God, there we go." It's like, okay, no, just because they can't explain it doesn't mean you are aliens. Right. It meant they and this is the challenge. So it started as Project Sign, which was really like, hey, let's look into this stuff, and which actually had a very pro-alien bias, by the way. So
of course,
Sign was very much, it must be, let's prove it's aliens. That was very much with Project Sign when it started. Now it only lasted about a year. That was the 1947-ish.
Yeah, it was.
Right.
Yeah.
And it became
shortly before Roswell, weirdly enough.
And then it became Project Grudge, which literally had the exact opposite thing, saying, hey, let's tell everybody you're crazy. It's not aliens. Right. This is where the government conspiracy cover-up starts to happen.
You know what I find really interesting? I find it interesting that when we have, Roswell, and I go back to Roswell because that's the first time in history that there was a real incitement of panic, right? That there was an alien craft that landed.
Not counting War of the Worlds.
What's that?
Not counting Orson Welles' War of the Worlds.
No, but there was, War of the, right. That was it. Orson was the son. It was written by H.G. Wells in 1895, and then he reads it on the radio and everyone loses their fucking bananas.
It wasn't as bad as everything we hear about it, but it was still bad.
Oh yeah,
people were panicking, thinking, oh my God,
Marge, get the guns.
That's right.
We're gonna, but 40. So they quickly said that it was. Well, they said it was an alien craft had fallen, or a flying saucer, and then they redacted or took that back and said, oh no, it's a weather balloon, right? Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to show it. Actually, they did show it to us. They showed us a weather balloon.
Yeah, in a hangar.
They're like, look, it's a weather balloon. There you go. That's what we found.
So then, coincidentally, this starts. Yeah, like, oh shit. we do have a problem here. Right. So yeah, so they start with that, and then it seems to graduate into more of a, I believe that there, the government is and we live in the most interesting time, because the Pentagon has come out and said, hey, we have no idea what this is, which is wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We know, but we will not tell you.
Yeah, we're going to tell you we don't. So this is the problem, right?
We're not going to lie to you. Completely.
We're not going to lie to you, but we're not going to tell you.
Yeah.
Or are we going to lie? So this is the challenge, right? So Sign, for example, believed the bulk of things were natural phenomena. So they believed that most things, but they said the ones we couldn't identify were extraordinary. Like these were probably aliens.
Right.
Grudge,
or something. Yeah.
Or something. Grudge said, okay, and the things we can't explain are just natural phenomena we can't explain. You're all crazy, all losers, go away.
Right. And what Project Bluebook, so in 52, this fella, Ruppelt,
I think he's
Edward J.
Lieutenant
Ruppelt.
Colonel or something, or
he was a captain. He was a captain, but he was also, but he wasn't just he was a World War II guy. He was a pilot. He got a degree.
Aliens.
No, but I think what he wanted to do was to actually he wanted to make it into something where they could classify each one, right? There was a process. There was like a scientific process.
And not just that. So what they wanted to do was to use what's called standard intelligence procedures,
right?
Where it's unbiased.
Right.
This is the information presented. You don't come in with a bias saying it's the fucking Russians. It's like, no, look at the facts and then make your decision. And don't come in with an idea and then view the facts through that lens. And it was
standardized, right? Like when you're asking questions, you're asking everyone the same questions. But they also wanted to get rid of the stigma of people, including military, which was a big one. From saying, "Oh, I saw something up there in the sky." Okay, Bill, you're done now.
All right, we can't fly anymore. We found it. We got a solution that you're no longer flying.
You're not allowed to fly. I'm sorry. You crazy bastard. You're sweeping floors. But anyway, so this was sort of a new, I think in 1952, and I'm not sure why, coincidentally, there were so many UFO sightings. And then this project took flight as well, right? So there's these coincidental time periods, which I find really interesting, right? Like 47, Roswell, right? Roswell, New Mexico.
Well, and let's not
52,
forget what had just happened, the greatest driver of innovation in human history, war. A massive one. And I mean, there were a lot of things, like I was watching recently, apparently Disney Plus has Nazi megastructures, which I always get a kick out of when I'm like, wait a second, I'm watching Nazi megastructures on Disney. What kind of bizarre, I'm watching something with the word Nazi in it, in the title on Disney. Okay.
Walt was a well-known racist.
I'm not saying I never thought it's because
very outspoken man.
Things.
Oh, yeah.
But
who might have been pro-Nazi. Who knows?
He might have been. Who knows? It's like Henry Ford. I think he was anti. I don't think they were pro-Nazi. They were very anti-Jew, which was different.
Anti-Semites, that's were right. Yeah,
they were very anti-Semitic and very anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's the idea when you look at the Nazi megastructures, you look at what they were trying to do trying to accomplish with their VX rockets near the end of the war. All this stuff that never got finished. Well, they weren't the only ones, no doubt. So I have no doubt that Russia,
you're not
the
wrong.
US, everybody was doing all these other things, and it's like war's over. Great. Now we got this experimental aircraft. Huh. Okay,
so
flying around.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because the U2, remember we discussed that when the U2, the what was it? The A2, U2 and A2. I can't remember.
Oh God. Yeah. I didn't delve back into all those special aircraft we were talking about. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, Area 51. So now we go back to Area 51. Well, were they making specialty aircraft? Yes.
That's what it was there for, was experimental air.
What was Area 51? Yeah, it was a research facility to make bigger, better fucking, iron machines that could fly fast. So why would they think that, so we have to look at it, and that's where we get into other areas where the CIA says, okay, now we gotta now
we have a concern about this because all of a sudden, I mean, people are seeing something. Now, maybe they had too much moonshine or hooch.
It's possible, especially if they're in West Virginia.
Appalachia. They're in the Appalachians.
They're
not seeing the Mothman or the Flatwoods monster.
We've seen something. I don't know what it was. Could be 7 feet, could be 20 feet. Who knows? It's
right.
big. Yeah, no.
So you see that. So there's people are seeing something. And to go off and say, oh, you're all crazy losers, that is an intelligence fail, because when you have the populace seeing or saying something, you might want to look into it.
Yeah, and things that, so we're already, if you look at the world, you had a nuclear strike that was done in Japan. You have a world that's going, well, what if they have that technology? Maybe they could do the same to us.
Japan didn't have too much. Japan was in a pretty hurting unit.
Well, not necessarily Japan, but like the Russians.
The Russians. And they did wind up getting it. Thank you, Mr. Triggers.
Yeah. What were their names again?
Oh God, it was a husband and wife team. That's all I remember. And
it was on the last episode. They basically, they gave all of our secrets. They looked like such a sweet couple too. I'll post a picture. They were not, though. They were bad people. So we have a really tense world at this point in time. But with that said, how we look at this Project Bluebook is that, they wouldn't exist if there wasn't questions.
If there weren't unexplained things that they had to follow up on. Right. This is not necessarily, although they're probably they weren't being super honest, but they were investigating to try and find details for the country's benefit, right?
And not only that, they found a lot of resistance. So I was reading articles from Ruppelt after he retired. There was tons of resistance. So like when shit hit the fan in 1952 in Washington, which we're going to get into, that's one of the, I don't want to go over a ton of
those are Lubbock lights.
Yeah. Well, there was dozens and dozens of sightings and radar. And like, it was basically like there were jets scrambled. Like this was a real event. So, but we'll get into that. But I think that's a good representation of some of these things where you go, well, what the fuck was it? And it's dismissed, right? But he faced a lot of, from his own governmental things, like they thought it was a joke, right? It's like Space Force, basically like, oh yeah, I'm Army, you're fucking Space Force. You ever watch that TV show, by the way?
I've watched both seasons of it.
I enjoy it.
I enjoyed the first season more than the second season, but
but
I don't know. Sure. And I don't know if they're getting it. I don't think it's getting renewed. Like the way they ended the second season seems like
I don't know.
Sounds like when they start breaking out into Aruba, Bahama, I'm like, I think that sounds like a way. They're just a weird ending for it.
You know what though? The work between John Malkovich and Steve Carell. That is a good relationship. I think they should make more TV, to be honest with you. If they can make this work, or
they should do this, we call it Majestic 12. Right? It should be Space Force, but Majestic 12 with those.
We're going to transfer you both to Majestic 12.
Majestic 13.
Yeah, or whatever it is. But yeah, so he faced a lot of like flack. Like, so like, for instance, when he went to Washington to do this newly created, they didn't even want to give him a car to use to like question people. They ended up saying they're for generals only. You can rent a cab with your own money. Welcome to being a.
Well, when you talk about resources, as we said earlier, right? How many people are involved? Well, not just that, by the way. It's like, hey, and while you're out there, can you go pick up my dry cleaning? Because
Right, because your job's not really important.
That's right, exactly. could you pick up my dry cleaning, and while you're at it, could you interview these people?
Yeah, you got to ask them 12 questions. That's it.
That's right.
And whatever they say, don't even write it down. Just make notes, like ones and zeros.
That's right. Let's draw pictures.
Right. Well, I mean, can you imagine of those 12,000 or so? Like what I was out there having a couple drinks, and I saw this big light in the sky, and Hank, it was daytime.
That's right. It's daytime, Hank.
It was the sun you were looking at.
God, right. Damn it. Plane, Hank.
Yeah.
You're near an airport, Hank.
Jesus Christ. You live beside an airport.
Well, you can imagine how painful a lot of this would be. So,
yes.
For example, both my supervisor and my wife do the same thing where they tell stories with a lot of superfluous information. I'm like, if it's not interesting or funny, don't include the fact. Like it's not required for the story.
Right,
it's not an interesting, and it's not hilarious little anecdote. So you're going on here, and you could imagine somebody, tell me everything you saw. Okay, And then the guy's like, okay, wait, that was a terrible idea. He's talking about the coffee table now, and like that's relevant. And
right. Or here's something even I saw a dot in the sky moving away. Like I know here in North, there was like where we were from, there was tons of reports of something in the sky.
A large ball moving across the sky.
Yeah, something
between
like
the
that.
hours of 6 and 6.
Yeah, it was very like a sun almost.
It was like a sun. It was like a sun almost.
Oh,
and then it was replaced by another ball when the sky went dark.
It's funny because certain times, I guess, depending on how the rotation is, the space station is a big one that people,
Yeah, no, true.
The sun,
you can actually see it. You can actually see.
And depending on the road, because I guess it's in some sort of weird orbit too, right? So you don't see it all the time. It's in a weird orbit. But anyway, I'm sure it was something fairly randomly whatever. But it goes to show we've all seen weird shit in the sky. There's no question. But if everybody were to report it, well, what the hell?
So while we're on here, this is actually a good jumping off point. So one of the guys involved in Project Bluebook was a Professor J. Allen Hynek. Did you hear about this fellow?
Yeah. Well, I have him in my notes.
He was their scientific advisor, and he was there from the sign days right through to the end. Right. He put something together called the Close Encounter Scale. So do you remember I didn't read movie about that. Called The Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Right.
Do you know what that means?
Alien encounter.
Okay, yes. But do you know why it says of the third kind?
No.
So he basically said there are 3 types of close encounters. Okay.
Close
encounter number. Close encounter of the first kind is somebody simply observes a UFO and it leaves no evidence.
Right.
Close encounter of the second kind, a UFO leaves physical traces it was present, such as burns in the ground or broken branches.
Right.
Close encounters of the third kind, person makes contacts with it, not abduction, it could be an abduction, makes contact with a UFO or other life form. So our Falcon Lake incident, for example, would be a close encounter of the third kind.
Right. Or well, would it though?
It would
because it's only a ship.
But it's still a UFO. It doesn't necessarily.
Okay. It doesn't have to be an alien. All right.
It doesn't have to be an close encounter with. It has to be that this person had a contact with. And this guy didn't just see it. Like, I mean, he's got burns. He's like,
right.
It checks all of them off, right?
That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this fellow, now he created this, I believe, after. Basically, he did this in his 1972 book, The UFO Experience: A Scientific Inquiry. And this guy was a physicist, I believe, and he wanted to apply the scientific method to all these alien abductions, all these UFO.
Perfect.
Right. Back to our whole unbiased application of intelligence. Although the scientific method isn't totally unbiased, because technically you create hypotheses and then you try to prove or disprove, which by its very nature
but more of a systematic like itinerary of like what breaking it down. No, I like that, and I did not know that. So
so it tries speaking to what you're talking about, where you see people see it, right? So if you saw a UFO, congratulations, you've had a close encounter of the first kind.
Right.
If you go to a field and you see the crop circle, the radiation burns, whatever, now it's a second kind. And if you getting probed, congratulations, it's the third kind.
And if it's free, good for you.
If it's free, good for you. People pay good money for that.
They do. No, I didn't. But that's
also the Rio scale too. So there's a new one where they call it the Rio scale, which is more mathy. Like it's actually a scale from 1 to 10 but it's more about the reliability of the report than this. This was more of a classification of encounters, whereas the Rio scale that they've come up with fairly recently, I think in the last 20 years, is basically how to determine whether or not the encounter whether this is like a legitimate this is a legitimate reporting of something nobody knows about or some crazy wacky do.
Right. Which, I mean, we know that here's the thing. So you have people that are police officers, you have people that are military pilots, radar controllers, you have all these different individuals who are quite credible, or should be, because their jobs demand that they are.
And let's not forget our friends Betty and Barney Hill. Is it Betty and Barney Hill? It was Betty and Barney Hill, wasn't it? the Hill abduction, was that
Yes.
Betty and Barney?
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah. Yes.
Like they had literally nothing to gain from reporting
and everything to lose. And
so that's a different type, and they still did. So that's a different type of credibility, saying, well, this isn't a fame whore thing.
Well, and in their own rights, they were professional. They had jobs. They were not, they weren't just some crackhead laying on the street going on to sell Jesus. This was a legitimate, bunch of people, and that's what I mean. Like we'll look at Falcon Lake.
Yeah.
Right. I can't remember his name. Oh my God, my brain is.
It was like Czechoslovakian or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we'll post it. But
or you can watch the episode, folks.
Or check it out, Falcon Lake. Yeah, you'll find out his name because we're not very good with memory.
Now, Blue Book never investigated Falcon Lake, did they?
Who?
Blue Book, because it was
because it was Canadian.
Okay, well, they do everything else in Canada. I'm surprised
too. They may have.
What was the time? Now I got to find 1 second. I'll tell you exactly.
It was in the 60s.
So Blue Book shut down in 1969.
69, yeah.
And I guess if you look at it this way, since they couldn't go off and actually, 1967. So it would have been near the end of Project Blue Book. And since they weren't going to give the captain a car, they're like, we're not flying you to Canada.
You got to walk.
You're going to have to walk.
Take a bus to Canada.
Your own car.
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying is that, if we look at these kind of like things where you go, okay, well, these are pretty regular folks. Yep. And then you couple it. Well, even look at our last episode, the Flatwoods. These are just regular folks. These are not,
who were scared,
who were terrified.
Everything for both the Mothman and the Grafton Monster.
Grafton.
Yeah, they're Grafton. Sorry, that's a different one.
Braxton.
The Flatwoods. Yeah, the Flatwoods monster or the Braxton monster. They were scared. These were people that were terrified.
And we all like to talk tough, but I'll tell you right now, I'm a big dude, but I see a skinny little green dude fucking coming at me, all tingling hands.
Remember Kenny saying he was going to be the best damn slave he could be?
Right. I mean, I'll be the best. I'm booking her, man. I don't care. I'm not fisticuffing no little alien. I'm gonna be scared and running.
They're like, sorry, Jax.
Yeah.
They're your new parents now.
They'll take good care of you, son.
They'll take good care of you.
Don't worry, I can't run far or fast. It'll be pathetic. I'll have a heart attack. Hope for the aliens to resuscitate me. But yeah, you know what I mean? Like we hear it all the time, and especially pilots, commercial pilots. Yeah, these are another one that go. Yeah,
they do drink a lot though. It's a long flight.
A lot of cocaine, a lot of
planes fly themselves pretty much now. Like it's the landing you really need the pilot for.
And even then, it's more takeoff apparently. Landings they have auto landing now. Yeah, man.
Because that means that's why we've stopped seeing those movies about where the planes and they're trying to talk the guy in.
Yeah, there's no need. It has an autopilot, auto landing.
I figure if we can get cars driving themselves, I mean, planes are like cars with less traffic.
Right. Well, the takeoff, though, they still need a person, apparently. But I mean, that may just be something that they don't need eventually, too. Like when the pilot gets like, take the controls. The pilot's, what? A friend of mine, he travels a lot they repair airplanes and things like this. And he was saying, like everybody, he goes, the pilots sleep sometimes.
Yeah.
Not on commercial flights. This is like because they repair planes. So they're like work planes. They're big monstrosities but they're, they just like fucking take turns sleeping because there's nothing going on. It just flies.
Oh, because most modern planes, you can set them up. So it's the whole fly by wire, right? Where the idea is the plane is trying to go everywhere at once, and the system is set up to keep it going one area. So as long as nothing bad happens. And
it's smart. It's smarter than a human, like it keeps you on course. There's no instability of like, oh, I got an itch and plane like,
oh, damn, drop my coffee in my lap.
Oh no, shit. Heart attack. That's another big one. Oh yeah. Pilots have heart attacks. That would be a bad day.
That's why you have co-pilots. Hopefully they both didn't eat the same bucket of poutine before getting on the flight.
Oh God. Oh, side note here. There's an app right now for our area that gives all of the health unit information about every restaurant every place you eat, all of the inspection details.
Oh, and
oh my God.
You're never eating out again, are you? You're like,
I shouldn't have.
Feces.
I sent it to my business partner, and he's like, "I'm not opening that," because he loves to go to all different places, right? And he's like, "No, I don't want to know." And I'm like, "You're fucking right. You don't want to know because it's disturbing." Anyway,
you know what? People in the Ukraine are getting bombs dropped on their head right now. They'd be like,
"What's a little salmonella?"
That's right. What's a bit of rat feces in my food? At least I have food.
Right. That's true.
First world problem. The fact that we're so picky about the places where we eat
or what we
meat,
eat.
Phil, love it. Live it.
I mean, I love all food. Look at me. I love food. It's my thing.
Get a bit of street meat in you. That'll help fix any of your problems, Phil. You'll be like, I'm now slim and beautiful because my stomach has turned itself inside out for the last week and a half.
Yeah, I believe though that you build up an immunity over time. Right. I digress.
Like carrion birds, like vultures. You get that bacteria in your gut. We can eat dead flesh
or bears.
Dead flesh.
I'm more of a bear.
That's right. Black.
I prefer rotting, tenderized meat. Yeah. So we're off track.
Yes, we are totally off track.
So let's go to Project Blue. We kind of got an idea of what Project Bluebook is, and if you're really
the United States Air Force investigating unidentified flying objects.
That's right.
Reports
that's
right. That's in a nutshell. That's what Project Bluebook was.
That's right. And basically, in a nutshell, and we'll get into more of them a little bit later, I guess. But I want to get into the Washington investigation, or invasion, as they like to term it. Okay, so I'll give you a kind of a brief, because I mean, I'm not giving you one, Corey, but I'll give anyone who's listening. So in 1952, there is hundreds and hundreds of UFO sightings all over the place. And then all of a sudden, over the Capitol, basically, Washington, there are numerous radar detections of like 7 of these disc-like things, just hanging out, just doing their thing. Visual sightings, people reports are fucking streaming in. Commercial pilots are saying, what the fuck is this up in the air? Everybody's in a panic, right? So, and our story begins with Edward Nugent. Did you read about Edward Nugent?
A little bit, yeah.
He's the guy so at 11:40 p.m. on Saturday, July 19th, 1952, Edward Nugent, air traffic controller. I guess he was at Washington National Airport, which is today the Ronald Reagan Center for Absent-Mindedness Airport. He spotted 7 objects on his radar, and he basically goes, they were located 15 miles apart. So they were in like this formation, like a pattern, right? There was no known aircraft in the area. He basically was like, what the fuck? Didn't know what to do. He thought it must be a malfunction. So he calls his boss over, Harry Barnes, and he's like, dude, what is this? So they double check the machinery. Everything is fine. But it was a straight, like, they're like, this is weird. And then that sort of is what kind of starts all of this. So that's July 19th. And basically it's nonstop. These crafts are over the White House. They're over other areas of Washington, like the Washington Monument. And then voila, panic ensues.
As it ought to.
As it ought to. We're being invaded, basically. So I thought that was really interesting. There was a number of people. So it started with Ed Nugent, but it didn't end with him. So what we have is, then we start to get reports from aircraft pilots that things are happening, and that they see these discs. And at one point there was like multiple sightings all over the place. But yeah, so it's kind of interesting that.
Well, and I believe there's actually documented, like there's actually
there is
evidence, like
oh no, oh
dear
God,
Lord.
face orgasm. Good for you, Corey.
Yeah, well, I just gotta wipe my screens down. So
Jesus Christ. Yeah, so there were a bunch of people that witnessed this stuff,
and the pictures were taken. So you can
pictures were taken.
Yeah, you go online and you can see some of the pictures. Now, again,
yes.
Keep in mind, we're not talking super awesome photos. None of them are great.
Well, camera technology back at that point in time wasn't great to begin with, right?
Well, it was good enough. I mean, but
in 52, I guess. I really don't know.
Good enough for that. But you're right. You're not getting super wide angle. You're not getting like a zoom lens. And remember, the people taking these photos aren't like, they're more people than professional photographers going off saying with all the super awesome equipment.
And getting a camera. Remember how big cameras like when we were kids? But imagine 52.
You often had to develop your own film.
Hold the box.
And you had to develop your own film. Like you could.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I guess so.
Yeah. My mother-in-law actually had a dark room.
Oh, okay. Oh, really?
Yeah, she was a real Renaissance woman, Phyllis. She did.
That's amazing.
Did a lot of stuff. Like
I only met her once. Nice lady. Yeah. So anyway, they the people in the tower. So now other radar stations are picking this up. Basically, they couldn't believe the speed at which these things were moving through the radar. So some of the estimates were like 7,000 miles an hour. So blipping in and
because 7,000. So Mach is anything faster than 600, and each doubling, each like so 1,200 I think is Mach 2, 1,800 is Mach 3,
something like that.
So if they're moving at 7,000,
that's like a rocket going into space. Isn't that whatever they're hitting a ridiculous speed?
Ridiculous.
But this is all of them like ludicrous speed. Yes, barf.
You got it in one.
That's right. So it's one of those things where it's like this is one of the more like strange events that and nothing has ever happened like this since.
Correct. And you think about the time this would have happened. So this would have been, Cold Wars.
Yeah. Well, Truman is in power right now.
And he's got that itchy bomb finger. He does. He's like, hit the nuke button.
I gotta do something. And he scrambles and he calls Project Bluebook guy and says, you need to meet with my assistant. I guess it's not important enough for you to meet with me. So the Project Bluebook gets involved at some point, but they end up scrambling. So this is they end up scrambling two F-94 Starfire jets, and they do it from Delaware, I guess, the Newcastle, and these fucking jets come scramming into and the UFOs basically go boop and disappear, like they're just playing cat and mouse with these things until the jets run low on fuel, right? Because they don't have infinite amount of time up there. And then guess who comes back when the jets go? We got to refuel. Our friends, the UFOs.
Playing with them, like very much being jerks.
Oh, and yeah, like having fun. This is like, okay, you're not going to catch us. We are beyond your technology. This is like, like a kid on a tricycle trying to outrun a Dodge Ram. It's just not going to happen.
It's like when you got that little kid and you're the adult and you're playing keep away from, like you're backing away, you're running. And you're like, there's no way this kid can catch me unless I let them catch me, which you inevitably do. So, oh, look, you got my leg. It's like, no, I could keep stepping out of your range. I could dance around. You're tired, fall down.
Right. What I find really fucking fascinating is the fact that, so there are, when you
what
look
is the official name of this incident, Phil? Do they have a name for it?
They did. It's called the Washington invasion. It's the Washington invade. That's the only name I
just got. To help if people want to go off and do further research.
You can Google it. It's all over the place.
It helps it easier. One of the challenges I run into with a bunch of this is you read something, you're like, okay, wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay, what's this? All right. it's like when we tie things back to our
Sure.
Our flatwoods, our whatever area.
Right. No.
It's always nice to have something to tie
so
back
if you Google 1952 Washington invasion or UFO invasion, it's everywhere. Wikipedia even has it's everywhere, and there's tons of independent articles from New York Times, from I read a bunch of stuff. And one of the guys, what was his name? SC Pierman. He was a pilot, and he was like looking at his cockpit of this DC-4, and this thing was like so close, and the radar, like this thing is just playing with him. It's just like kind of like not flying like a conventional airplane. It's like it was defying gravity, was how he sort of described it.
So this is where a lot of these unidentified flying objects, they move in manners that basically clearly they're not following conventional aeronautics.
Right.
To fly, for a plane to fly, there has to be more thrust under the wing than above it, like more under than over. So that way it goes up, right? And then you're still cutting through air. So you've got air resistance in that to move around, which means your plane has to be a certain shape. These things are stopping on dimes. Like they're stopping. Like it's not like, and planes that do that fall out of the sky. Helicopters can't even stop on a dime. They can hover at certain altitudes. Yeah, at certain altitudes, and they have to come in like when they do turns.
Yeah,
but it's all
bank. Yeah,
exactly.
That's right.
They're still banking versus something like that. The Tron from back in the day.
I know.
And when you see this, they talk about, and this, remember we covered in our Area 51 episode. Like and subscribe.
Yes, like and subscribe.
Where your fellow there, the guy you love, who you wouldn't shut up about he was working on this special propulsion, which the whole element X or whatever, anti-grav, it breaks what we know for rules of how things work.
Yeah. And now we're starting to see things that are, quick takeoffs and things like that. Like there's vertical takeoff and landings now with jets. Like that was something in the 70s that came out, right? So aircraft carrier, I can't remember the name of it, but the
Harrier jets that could go off and have ones that now apparently it's a huge waste of resources to do that. Like that's a lot of effort to lift the plane up and then get it high enough, and then you can turn and have it go the other way without crashing back down. But
and the hilarious thing is that when Bob Lazar talked about all these things,
I couldn't remember his name.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just messing with me.
No, I couldn't.
Bob Lazar. Our memories are terrible. Should we even talk about these things?
I keep notes here to the side. I just didn't have Bob in these notes.
Well, Bob was like, okay, well, this is a form of anti-gravity where it's displacing gravity. The idea was like, I'm sure, that you're going to see some technology. Everything that man said was there has either come out, or even the there was a sensor for your fingertips.
Maybe not everything, but there's certainly a lot of stuff now. And this is the challenge. Was he a futurist where he was like some of the sci-fi writers, for example? You read their stuff and you're like, oh yeah, they were bang on. And you're like, okay, yeah, they were bang on here, but we're not driving and flying cars yet. Although the cars are driving themselves, which
is very odd. Even my wife's car has like this lane.
Isn't that irritating?
I realize
how
off.
terrible a driver you are. You're like, yes, I know. I know I'm not staying in my lane. Thank you. No.
Her car will move you.
Okay.
The car moves you. So let's say if this is on, so it's lane assist, they call it.
Okay.
And so if you start weaving towards the center line, the car will right you. It will fucking drive itself, basically. It is the weirdest thing. I turn it off because I don't like it, because you'll actually feel like if you drive too close to the line, it'll move you over. You'll feel the wheel move you.
So we had test driven a Leaf, and every 15 seconds it was telling me what a horrible driver was like.
I don't need you to tell me. I know I'm horrible.
I know. And I know, stupid car. Then you get hit head on.
Yeah. Well, we did like Tesla and stuff. We've had Teslas, and they're pretty cool little cars. And
I hate the fact of the Teslas that it's a paywall. They're the auto driving is paywalled. So they're like, well, we'll sell it to you for less. oh, the car does this, but we're going to sell it to you for less unless you want that feature that is in your car already, and then we'll turn it on.
Well, it's like software, right? I mean, it's the same kind of idea, you know,
it's a service. Yes,
because they really can't add parts to it, right? Like all the cars come pretty much standard. And
no, but they've already built it. So my problem is you've already gone off and done this thing. But because I get it, software, once you've made it, you could, whether you do 1 copy or 1,000 copies, you've already done it. You don't, it's not like a car where if I built a car, I need to spend the same amount of money to build a second car.
Yeah.
You do the software once, here you go. And
right. Well, Kia has I just tinted one. Oh my, I can't remember what it's called. But it's a completely a beautiful car for like Kia. I'm not used to that, but completely electric. So and reasonably affordable. You know, you're going to see
affordable.
Well, I mean, 50 grand, you know,
it's not reasonably affordable for me.
Oh my God.
Well, no,
I those need a little, crisp 50s out of your wallet there, old man.
I'm driving. Listen, I drive my little micro to work because it's like I paid with the extended service plan, like 18,000, right? For this micro.
Sure.
You know,
but just because you're cheap doesn't mean you can't afford.
Fair enough. But if they had an electric car around that price, I would pick it up.
Yeah.
That's my point.
And eventually though, I think they will.
Once the technology or Bob Lazar figures out more technology, or we have some more UFOs land, which maybe that's it. Maybe the UFO aliens are like, you know what, guys, they're on to us. They keep finding us. They're getting better. These monkeys are getting better and better. We're going to get caught. You got to stop screwing with them.
I think it may just be. So here's another thing that people have proposed that, you know, we think that, oh, it's just aliens and it's one particular. Well, what if it's a bunch? What if it's like, okay, you know, 52 was like these guys from, or these guys from, you know, Planet X, whatever it is. And then they go, these guys are all fucked up. They just dropped a nuclear bomb. We're out of here. And then they leave. And then we have, you know, a variety of little drop-ins here and there. Who knows? But that doesn't mean that they have to be the same race of alien. You know, we all think of the same thing. Like, well, you know what? Most people have this idea that these are what aliens are, and they're just sort of bugging us. It could just be we're like a gas station in the fucking universe.
That's right.
You need water?
Backwater. Yeah.
Yeah. You need some fucking ocean water for whatever purpose.
For your hydrogen cells, no problem. Here, go ahead. There's a planet of it. Just soak some up.
Yeah. Drop into the ocean, get what you need, pet a whale, fuck off.
Grab yourself one of those monkeys that run around all the time.
Just for fun.
Just for fun.
Eat it if you want. Who knows?
Drop it off when you're done. Like,
or not. Yeah.
Or not.
I mean, I don't think it's quite like cut and dry. And I think that's also what Project Bluebook was trying to do, was to show that it's not just cut and dry. You know, we you know, it could, they wanted to see like different crafts. So there was a numerous amount of different crafts, like aircraft that people had seen. Numerous. So what does that tell you?
So so back to our previous statement, UFO does not mean alien. It can mean anything. So
sure,
this is out of the 701 unidentified but credible, meaning this is not. So the 12,618 sightings, right?
Right.
Out of those, 701 were identified as unidentified, but they were credible, meaning this is not somebody running a game on the Blue Book guys. This is like, no, these ones, we can't come up with a natural phenomenon explanation. We can't come up with a military aircraft explanation. We cannot explain this. It is unexplained. What does that mean? Doesn't mean it's alien. It means it's unexplained, meaning we don't know what it is. Based on what we know or what we can tell you, we don't know what it is.
So one of the things that I thought was kind of fishy was they classified all those 701.
Yep.
So you can't just read them. And I don't know if they've ever released those notes or not.
So they released, you can get the final report on Project Bluebook. So Project Bluebook shut down in 1969.
Yes.
Which, you know, and then usually I think there's like a 25-year classification. And recently, however, you can actually go and get some redacted reports from archives if you want. Yeah, these reports are often redacted.
Right.
They've taken out names of witnesses and people who's reported things. So unfortunately, sometimes people get a little heavy with the black pen when they're redacting stuff. So sometimes other stuff gets redacted, which tends to promote suspicion.
I wonder who decides to redact. Like, who's the guy that goes, take this out, take that out?
I think they have processes behind it. Again, I think, like I said, the idea of names is one thing.
Right.
Some other stuff, but it is really up to the person doing the redacting.
Right. Yeah, I've never understood. Like, I figure there's got to be somebody who's in charge.
There is, but I don't think it goes as high as you'd think, because the people that are in these positions to do the redacting have basically been told, hey, when in doubt, black it out.
Right. So this hits the media. Saucers swarm over Capitol. Right. And basically now the government's like, oh no, what do we do? This is Washington. And this is kind of like one of those things where, you know, the Washington area newspapers are just eating this up. And then the Pentagon does a press conference, and apparently it's like the biggest press conference they've done since World War II. Like, it is enormous. Now, if this was just a bunch of bullshit, do you think that, you know, do you think they would go through that kind of painstaking effort to, you know, talk to the press and try and?
Well, I think they realized fundamentally that unless they do, if you don't tell a story, they're going to make up a story. So you either try to get ahead of this by trying to control the narrative. Right.
And they do. So they basically are like, you know, talking about, they bring Rupert's report in from Project Bluebook stating that, you know, he talked to a bunch of scientists, and what they said was that it could be like some aerial phenomena like meteors and other things. It's pretty weak. And then there's this other thing that they talked about, which is apparently was a common problem back then, intermittently, was weather. So there is types of weather that affect radar.
So one of the ones I heard was birds, which is the common one, right? That the birds, they're in a flock of birds in the area, and the lights were reflecting off them. That's why you saw these lights in the sky. And the Lubbock lights, it was one of the ones where they had the plover birds.
Right. But this was over the course of 2 weekends, basically.
It's a little weird, right?
And not only that, there were numerous, like, these pilots in fighter jets are trying to track down these images, and they can't. They can get glimpses, and that's the other thing, is that there's a lot of pilots who saw these things in the sky, and weird formations moving at ridiculous speeds. So the other thing is that there was a report later, I can't remember who did it, and they dismissed it. This is in the 70s. They went back to this because apparently this is one of the most documented cases ever.
It's hard to do something over Washington without it getting documented heavily,
right?
I guess.
Well, that's it. And they basically said that the technology at that time was, with radar, was not as good as it is today, and that now, like in the 70s, they basically got this sort of like digitized radar, where it relies a lot less on controllers and their interpretation of radar. Over, you know, flocks of birds. You know, it'll dismiss certain things because when the signal, but the signal was coming back, and now this they can't refute. They deemed it as like an error in the machinery type idea of all the machinery that picked this up, which would have been like dozens of different radar stations, that it was a metallic surface. So I guess based on how the beam would hit, they can determine the surface of the, you know, that's how they can actually identify like a MiG fighter.
Because I suspect there's something about, so remember the stealth bombers and that they talked about the skin absorbs. So it keeps a symbol. Now, I suspect when you hit something, I guess wood versus metal, you're hitting it with so there must be an absorption or something. Like, there's science involved, folks. Stay in school.
Well, like the stealth fighters, they have this paint. It's a special paint that was designed to.
They also have an image. They also have different angles, which might not make the plane super aerodynamic, although apparently flies quietly. That when it hits, you're not getting an image back that's as useful. It distorts the image of the bomber or the jet.
Right. And that's something that we, it's so funny because everything gets dismissed, right? Like when you would look at these, like the government's trying to say, okay, no, we're fine. We know what's going on. This is what it is. And then people are they're like, oh, good. But nobody asks questions, right? It wasn't until many years later that skeptics started to go, what the fuck?
Well, there were always this, but they were more the crackpotics, right? So the problem is the people that were questioning the government, because the government wouldn't lie to you, right?
No, of course not.
Right. So look at Pearl Harbor, right? One of the things come out is that the U.S. knew something was going to happen, and they also knew the only way they could get into World War II
was something catastrophic.
If something happened, and they might not have known the extent, but they knew something, and they could have taken actions to stop it. But it's like, let's get a bloody nose so we can get in the fight.
Yeah, it was a pretty big bloody nose, though.
It was, There's a lot of people who go off and say the same thing about 9/11, saying, well, 9/11 was that too. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. We did 9/11, and I think that,
I think that's harder to say than a mass scale invasion of the Pacific by the Japanese missing that, even with the technology of the time.
So I did read an article about what you were talking about. And one of the things that is their primary basis for this is that where the ships were located, like the Japanese came in from water, and there were tons of ships. Like they had to sneak by
an entire Pacific fleet had
right.
And
you gotta go
Pearl Harbor, which this could be a podcast in and of itself, but Pearl Harbor, a lot of their big aircraft carriers, guess what, weren't there. So the stuff they sunk in Pearl Harbor
wasn't expensive.
Well,
I know.
Okay.
Oh,
okay.
Well, but it wasn't their main.
Like the Kia affordable $50,000 car
right.
expensive, or
all the Teslas were gone that day.
All the Teslas were there. It was just the Kias left.
Yeah, it's like when my neighbor's garage burnt and all his really expensive Harleys and shit was
not
gone.
To be there. Oh,
yes. Weird. All his memorabilia from all of his hockey games.
All the irreplaceable stuff was gone.
Yeah,
funny.
Yeah, funny. I'm kidding. I don't have a neighbor who burnt his garage, but
if he did,
and I've heard tell of that where it's like, oh yeah, the '57 irreplaceable Chevy pickup truck is not in the garage. First time in 6 years.
Right. What are the odds?
What are the odds?
But we deviated.
Yes.
Back to our Washington invasion.
Well, yeah. So I'll pick up where Air Force.
Radar. We were talking
the radar,
digital radar, where they're able
came back as a metal. So there's a lot going on, and they're just trying to basically dismiss it. This is not something that that you should worry about, right? We got enough worries in the world, and that was sort of the other thing. We have enough worries in the world with Russia,
the Ruskies,
the poor Ruskies. They always get blamed. They never fucking did shit for 60 years. Why do you think they're gonna do it now?
Well, they didn't do shit to anybody else. They were terrible to themselves. I mean,
not like the British. Judge thee, lest thee be judged.
That's
Judge
right.
thee not.
Colonialism for the
win.
My
God. So my son comes up to me the other day and he goes, Dad, did you know there's only 22 countries in the world that have not been colonized by Britain? That Britain has not attacked? And I said, yes, son. It is quicker to count the ones that have not been than have been.
It's just easier.
That we're not. Yeah. And you go, oh, yeah, Russia's the problem. Okay, we're the fucking problem too.
Russia is also 18 times the size of the UK. So as far as the UK is, they were a naval power. Guess what? Hey, if you were near water, you were fair game for the UK. They're like, hey, we're gonna pull up to your boat with our boats.
Right. I'm
surprised. Some people off.
Yeah, and we'll take a few and we'll sell them later on. But yeah, anyway, that's another podcast in it. So that's the idea, is that there was a lot going on, and they're like, okay, so the government, I'm sure, was scrambling. Truman is like, all right, what is going on? We need
get me my expert, the Blue Book guys, and they're like,
but I don't want to talk to him personally.
That's right. I don't have them talk to my assistant. My assistant will tell me what's important.
Yes, talk to my idiot assistant, and then he will tell me, and I will make a decision. And his decision was nothing. He was basically
what was his decision going to be?
Right.
Shoot into the sky randomly.
Yes.
Nuke Russia.
Well, they started to do so this was also a time where, people were nervous because of bombers, the Russia was going to bomb them with a nuclear weapon.
In World War II, like the Dresden bombing, for example, you saw what a coordinating bomb, and hey, FYI, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, if they got that and they get one of those over, I mean, that's the big fear. The mass
big fear was a nuclear strike. Yeah.
Was a bomb being dropped.
Yeah.
Of a nuclear nature.
Yeah. So they basically dismiss it as misidentified aerial phenomenon. Not sure what that means, but stars, meteors, unknown radar targets could also be explained by temperature inversions. I could not tell you what a temperature inversion is, but I suspect that it's
Did Bluebook investigate this one?
They did. So he investigated it personally. So this was something that Ruppelt,
using a cab, driving around in a cab.
So yeah, he got there and nobody wanted to help him. He was like, fuck, okay, I'm fucking off. He got pissed off and he left. He said, fuck it, I'm gonna go back. So he ended up talking to a physicist. I can't remember who it was. And that was who gave him the idea that temperature inversions can cause sort of like these little weird anomalies in radar. And so when Truman's guy talked to him, basically he said, well, this is what it could be. Not this is what it is.
Well, these are possibilities.
These are possibilities of what it could be, but not necessarily.
But it hasn't been identified. This is the thing. So, we don't know. We need more information.
Right. And he was very adamant that, okay, this is probably the biggest and maybe the last time we will ever have this much information and sightings and all this other stuff. And Truman went, yeah, it's temperature inversion. Right.
Thanks.
Okay. Gotcha. Thanks. Gotcha.
Weather, something to do with weather. Perfect.
Yeah. Put a pin in it. We're done.
Thank you for your answer.
Thank you for your answer.
I didn't give you an answer. I gave you what it could be.
But
thanks. That's all I need.
So Ruppelt went, all right. So they continued to do it's well documented. I read through some of it's pretty dry, but it's interesting nonetheless. And what else was there? So anything you want to add?
Bluebook in 1969 afterwards, and basically the U.S. Air Force never said they wasted their time. And didn't it keep going under something though? Like they might have shut down Bluebook. I remember reading, and I can't find it. Was under
there was something.
There was other programs, because you saw recently, for example, a couple of years back, where they released the footage, the fighter jet footage,
the fighter jets,
where you see the thing.
Buddy was on Joe Rogan. I watched that podcast actually. I can't remember the fighter pilot's name, Mike something. But anyway,
Mike something. That sounds like an alien.
Well, it was Michael something or other. He's
Michael Phelps. He's not just good at swimming.
Well, this guy is like a legit fighter pilot. Like he's been a fighter pilot for years. He and they show the footage, the actual footage. I'll pop a reel when we do this. And he couldn't keep. It was like the thing was moving. It knew that it was being targeted, because he was trying to put it into its targeting system to kind of lock onto it. These jets, they don't operate like I'm going to fly to, like, you lock onto something and it fucking takes you there. Couldn't lock onto it. Couldn't. And anytime it would play cat and mouse with him. He said, and this has happened not to him more than once, but he said he's heard this, like other fighter pilots talk. And he had a wingman. He had a guy that was flying with him, and same thing. This guy saw the same shit, and he's like, because this guy Michael, or whatever the fuck his name was, is like, okay, check. Are you seeing what I'm seeing? Right? Like, because if you and I are flying and I see something fucking weird, I'm going to be like, what?
Well, exactly. Am I scoping out? Is there maybe
like, are you seeing this? And I think that's a common thing to ask. And
like a canned ham. Are they mooning us?
What the fuck? These are some drunk aliens.
3 arse cheeks. What the hell?
Oh my God. 4 scrotums. A lot of scrotum. But yeah, so he couldn't track, like, and then he would just take off. And then at one point it flew vertically like 40 miles straight up. Pew! Gone. And fucking came back down. He's like, I've been a pilot for 30 years, and listen, there's nothing in the sky that does that. And he even was like joking. I think we talked about this at another podcast, that he would joke like, so I guess with the jets, like they can pick up heat signatures and stuff, and like there'd be like he'd see somebody, like a couple or something on an embankment or something where they're doing a flyby. He's like, and the jets come in super, super soft, like you can kill your engine almost, and like, and then turn on your landing lights. So you're like basically silent, and then turn on your landing light.
And there's another sighting.
Right. And that's what he said. He goes, we've done that just having fun. Like he goes, I'm retired now. I can tell you that.
Comes back to the unidentified.
Right.
So
can you imagine being that couple?
What'd you see? I saw the silent thing came in. I saw lights. I didn't stand around to stare at it because.
And then it roared away.
I was terrified out of my mind.
Of course, you'd be like, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah.
And yeah, he joked
flatwoods
about
monster.
That. Right. Well, or yeah, but like these lights, he said, are super bright. Like when they put their landing lights on, it's like enormous brightness,
particularly at night, right?
It would be at night, yeah, because they're picking up heat signatures, right? They're like, oh, those are people,
and all of a sudden it's blindingly bright. All I see is the sun standing in front of me,
and then a roaring at like Mach whatever away. Like you'd never see it. You'd just be blinded, and then hear roaring, and then it's gone. There's nothing. Yeah. So you have those things, but I'm. What do you feel like? What do you feel like? There's more out there, or I know I've asked you this before, but the more
I'm of the personal opinion that the universe is vast. Okay.
Yes.
And we are making technological strides with our limited means.
Right.
And it is horribly arrogant of us to think that we are the pinnacle of advancement in the vast universe.
Absolutely.
Now, like you said, why are they coming here? Okay, well, I can't answer that question, but I do believe that there are, first off, I certainly believe there are things we don't understand that we will eventually understand.
For sure.
But we don't understand them now. And to say that there's no other intelligent life in the universe,
it's unfathomable.
It's just that it's not, there is a non-zero chance of there being intelligent life. There is a non-zero. It is not zero. Now, is it vast? We know that there's a lot of factors. Like our solar system is particularly set up well. We've got a large gas giant, which keeps, extinction events from hitting us. We've got a moon whipping around us. We happen to have the right mixture.
Well, we have large planets surrounding us also. That's
those large planets. So that's a gas giant, right? It's a large mass. So when something comes by it, guess what? It's getting sucked into that versus into us.
Right. And shit still gets by it, which is weird.
It still does, right? But we have a moon whipping around that there's a good chance anything coming in, that moon's going to hit it. And we got the right mix of stuff here for life.
Liquid water.
Which they always say is apparently key. If you can find water on Mars, then that means life can exist on Mars. If you don't find water on Mars, that doesn't mean it can't exist. It just means that life as we know it cannot exist.
I totally think they're going to find some sort of like microbial something on Mars. I hope they don't bring it back. That's the other thing. I'm a sci-fi guy. I mean, I just know it's all bad.
I don't think anything's coming back from Mars at this point. I think everything that's gone there, it's not like, hey, send something to Mars and bring it back. It's like, no, drop a rover off. It's the only thing coming back is information.
Well, they're doing another moon landing. Like, what is that about? Why go there? Why?
Because my wife made me watch the movie on Amazon, Moonfall, because clearly it's a mega structure that was created by our ancestors to seed the planet with life.
Clearly. I'm not big on that, but you never know. Could be like a seed harvesting thing.
Well,
keep honestly, the DNA there.
We should make use of it, turn it into a dump or something. I don't know. Like,
sure,
maybe
we're in the moon. Why don't we do that?
Well, when you think about how we mine stuff here, who knows what the moon is full of? right? So for all we know, there's our lithium problem fixed.
Oh, what is the moon has something though? Some sort of silica that's really
Cheese?
valuable. What's that cheese? Well, it's mostly cheese.
I don't know. I'm not an astrogeologist, if that's a term.
Yeah.
But yeah,
well, you know my opinion on aliens.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's right up there with Bigfoot. Yeah, I get it.
I'm for sure.
You don't believe in any of the other stuff, but Bigfoot and aliens, you are all about.
Yes. Well,
You're not into psychic. You don't believe psychic powers, but you believe in aliens and Bigfoot. Yeah, exactly, Phil.
Right.
Jesus.
It's weird. I can't choose who I am, Corey. I can't.
Choose who I am.
So what are we doing next week after all this nonsense of aliens?
My original thought was I was going to stay with this current theme of weirdness and say, okay, let's do Fortean phenomenon.
What?
Fortean phenomena is basically unexplained phenomena, which again calls into things like UFOs, but also weird weather, like fish falling from the sky, weird things.
That is weird. I've heard of that.
However, I think we get off this particular train. We'll come back. I've got that bulleted for later.
Okay.
Roanoke.
Roanoke? I don't even know what that is. Roanoke.
Roanoke.
What is Roanoke?
Mystery of Roanoke. You'll have to tune in 2 weeks to find out.
I'll be there. I'll listen.
I'll be there. There's tons of, there's lots of stuff. Lots of stuff
Roanoke. Okay.
Yeah, it's
the mystery of Roanoke.
Mystery of Roanoke, whatever you want to call it, but Roanoke. If you do that, you'll see it.
Roanoke.
Rowan, Roan, Oak, E, ending with an E.
Oh, Oak. Oh, Roanoke.
Roanoke.
That's like a strong Viking name.
Also, Croatoan is also something relevant to that too.
Croatoan.
It's carved into a tree.
Oh, Croatoan.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm writing that damn thing down.
Anyway, So that's 2 weeks.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you very much for watching the OC. I'm Phil. This is Corey, and we are going to do Roanoke next week. So smash that like button. Everyone says that, so I'm going to start saying, smash it, crush it. Please.
Yes, please. Yeah, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Until next time, take care of each other.